So again, my name is Zorz. I work for Internet Society. I'm part of Deploy360 team. I come from Slovenia, so I'm not a native speaker. So I'm sorry for my terrible English. I will try to talk to you today about the best current operational practices and the efforts that we are doing at the Internet Society. So first, quickly about me. It is a good thing to introduce myself. I'm a founder of Slovenian Go6 Institute that pushed the IPv6 deployment in Slovenia and wider. I worked in internet operations for 20 plus years, so I carry quite a lot of operational experience on my back. And I have been a member of RIPE and IETF communities, and I'm primary co-author of RIPE 501 and 554. Anyone knows about these documents? RIPE 554? Show hands. Okay, thank you. It is the IPv6 requirements for ICT equipment list. That was quite successful stuff. I'm also the co-author of RFC 6346. That's the A+P. Now the A+P is becoming a MAP, MAP-E, MAP-T. We heard about this before. And I joined the Internet Society Deploy360 team in December. And now a bit of the shameless plug about Deploy360. We are a small team. Our team is all about putting the deployment-oriented materials on our web portal. We are trying to create a relevant operational content on IPv6, DNSSEC, and routing resiliency and security, including tutorials, some case studies, training resources, and so on and so forth. We are trying to get good, knowledgeable experts to write for us some material that the other operators can just get hold of, read, and deploy the new technologies. Okay, I said that. So, about the current operational practices, but before I go into that, I would like to share with you a short story. It's not a joke, because I can't compete with the cell phone joke. Sorry. That was a brilliant one. But it actually happened to me yesterday. I landed at Heathrow Airport. I jumped in a cab. And the cab driver he looked like James May from Top Gear. I'm positive. Well, that was not him, but. And the guy turns around and sees the IPv6 label on my T-shirt and says, "Oh, we are not very quick with implementing IPv6, are we?" So, what? And then actually we had a meaningful and interesting discussion with the cab driver while he was driving me towards my hotel about IPv6. So I thought that, yeah, well, IPv6 awareness here in UK is quite on a high level. Well, maybe the deployment is lagging a bit behind, but surely you have the good IPv6 awareness. Great stuff. So, let's get back to the topic, a BCOP repository. What is the challenge? The BCOP is being talked for years now, and like in this event and many others that I went in my past years, the best current operational practices are shared in different ways. There is a hallway conversation, there are presentations, email lists, forums, different means of how the operational practice is shared. My personal experience is that it's best shared over a pint of beer. And this is proven to the point. So, but all this stuff is not recorded and documented in majority of the cases. And there is no quick and easy way for someone that is trying to deploy something to find what others are doing and what is the best current operational practice and in which way they could go and deploy things. And there, of course, there is too much clutter on the IT landscape. Someone before said that people on the internet is wrong too many times. And it's right. So there may be a need for globally organized document series that is created by the operators, for the operators, on how today networks are run, operated, and how the future protocols like IPv6 and so on, well, current protocols, are implemented. The idea, we think that the BCOP repositories around the world could speed up the deployment of IPv6 and DNSSEC and make the routing infrastructure more resilient, of course, if people would be using it, and simplify network deployment for less traveled operators. Not everyone travels to the meetings and talk to the other operators. People tend to sit in the NOC and fix their own problems. And these documents, well, I get this question many times. What is the difference between IETF BCP series and the BCOP? BCP can be written by anyone. BCOP is operational practice and can be written just by experienced operators that did it and have a clue what they are talking about, because it's an operational experience, right? And we as Internet Society are committed to assisting in the creation and promotion of these repositories around the world. So the idea is to create discussion groups or working groups or tracks or whatever you want to call them, where operator-to-operator communication and creation of best current operational practices documents happen. And the same group could, and this is RFC 2119 could, be used for operators to actually communicate their needs back to the vendors and the standardization process. I'm sure when these BCOP groups starts their work, there will be lots of interest from vendors and IETF standardization people to come and participate in these meetings, because they can get a very good feedback on the standardization idea from the operational community. Another thing that I'm working, well, another thing that it's a given is that there is no enough operational experience and feedback to the IETF, and that the RFCs could be designed and written in a better ways if there would be more operational feedback to the IETF. So guys, please get in touch and get involved in the IETF process, because that's the only way that we can make the internet and standards better. So in these discussion groups, there could be presentations from the operators that implemented the new technologies or how they are running their networks. But this should not be just to show off, okay, I implemented V6 in this way, look at me. This should be, the intention of the presentation should be, look, this is what I'm willing to work on, and if there is in the room anyone that shares the same experience as I do, please help me writing the document. Another thing is the open discussion what the operators need to ease the deployment of new technologies. And also, the process should be owned by the operators with the content created by the operators for the other operators. There is this interaction that is not the best possible between standardization and operations, and we need to work on it. There is a leap between these two words. I'm not saying that there is no operational feedback to the IETF. I'm saying that there could be more feedback to the IETF. So, we went around the world and talked about this BCOP idea initiative. You can see here the list. See, after Lusaka at the end of June, it's UKNOF. That's the new start of the new second part of the world tour. We are going then to MENOC, then we're going to PLNOC, then we go to RIPE. We have the second BOF scheduled for RIPE meeting in Athens. Then I go to Curacao in Caribbean. Then I go to Ivory Coast to speak at AfriNIC about the BCOP, and to Toronto and to many other places. So we are putting lots of effort to go and fly around and talk to the operators groups. Why? Because I'm an operator. I was an operator for all my life, and I understand how it works and that this needs to be fixed. So some of the BCOP repositories are already started. NANOC community started an IP BCOP effort with Aaron Hughes and Chris and others. This became now the regional BCOP in North America. Actually, they asked ISOC to start also to help with startup of the BCOPs in other regions. And we got enormous feedback from RIPE community in Dublin. And actually that made me change the BCOP idea and turn it upside down. People were not very happy with me, but I said, listen, this is what community thinks, this is the feedback from the community, so we need to listen and understand what the community wants. No more top-down rigid structure. First idea was, I will show it you later, was quite rigid top-down structure. It's not top-heavy anymore. And we are redirecting our efforts and resources to helping to start the regional efforts and help starting the documents to emerge and to be written. So yeah, let's start the work regionally, produce something useful and publish it. Coordination and global repository might naturally emerge out of a real need. So this was the first idea. As you can see, we have global BCOP repository and then some committee and secretariat and all this stuff. And there are regional BCOPs down there and where actually the work is being done. We learned that this is top-heavy and too rigid, and this is not the bottom-up approach that we would like to use. So we did this. And many people were not very happy about this. But I said, well, that's what community needs. So we changed it to this. We cut the head off. And the idea now is let's get the content in the region started first. The global structure might emerge later, eventually, in a natural way. So now we are trying to start all these regional efforts, and Actually, what we did was we just put together a website where we just document and put the links towards the regional BCOPs and just inform what they are doing, what is going on there, and also what is going on around the world. So mainly in NANOC and RIPE region so far, we identified some topics. There was quite a good discussion at the previous BOF at RIPE meeting. And then on the mailing list, you can all join the mailing list. It's bcop@ripe.net. And the community came forward with these suggestions, what could be the topics of the interest and what could be worked on. I particularly like that pingable attribute in whois. I think this is really cool idea, to put pingable attribute in whois. Love it. There is more topics, how to test the network performance, how to check your visibility. There's lots of stuff going on, and we need more suggestions, of course. As a primary co-author of RIPE 501 and 554, I thought that the first speed bump was addressed by 554, how to order the equipment that would support IPv6. And then I had this idea that we need to remove the next speed bump. And while going around the world and talking to the operators, many times emerged the same cause, saying, yes, we implemented IPv6, we tested it, we tested CPEs, everything is working, everything is fine, but we are not rolling it out to our end users. So why? They said, oh, because we think that our help desk will burn down if we roll that out to our end users, because our help desk have no idea and no clue about IPv6 troubleshooting. So I say, hey, then why not helping all these guys with putting together some big operators that deployed v6 and start a document with the title Generic IPv6 Troubleshooting and Procedures for Help Desks Around the World. And actually, we started it. I hope that we can put forward the first beta draft soon. Here in this effort, Lee Howard from Time Warner Cable joined us, John Jason Brzozowski from Comcast. Then it's Jason Fessler from Yahoo. He maintains the test-ipv6.com site that we will work on. Then it's Tim Chown, he was here, he left. Then Dave Friedman from Claranet and myself. And we are also searching for other big operators that have this experience on how to train the help desk. And the idea is to put together a quite short and to-the-point document how help desks around the world should identify and troubleshoot the users' issues when it comes to the moment when user calls and says, "Oh, the internet is not working." So we'll be working on this, and of course submit to the BCOP working groups and efforts around the world, and try to create the first cross-region cooperation, so every region can have their own comments and suggestions, so we can create truly globally useful document. So what's going on around the world? Africa region, Mr. Douglas Onyango volunteered to run the effort. I'm already scheduled for the Ivory Coast meeting in November, when we will have a BOF and start the effort. In Latin America, we are starting a BCOP in Curacao meeting. that should be a good thing. We also have 2 volunteers there. In North America, NANOC is running. In Europe, we have RIPE, BCOP, and we might go possibly towards the maybe working group or at least a task force. Let's see what happens at the next BOF. In the Middle East, we still have to go. I flew 80,000 miles in a half of a year for going around the world and talk about BCOP to the operator groups. And we still did not manage to go to the Asia and Middle East. I plan to go to the Middle East in, I think, next 2 weeks. I go to Kuwait for MENOC. And in Asia, the seed was planted at APNIC meeting in August, I think. So lots of things going on. And for the end, some advantages on why you should do it. It brings the common understanding on what the best operational practice for the operators around the world. And actually, that documents that are created may prevent governments from creating and mandating their own operational practices documents. We all know what happened in Dubai for the WCAT meeting. Governments are trying to get their role in the internet. And they will keep coming back. And coming back and coming back until they gain some powers to say something on this. And when it comes, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but when it comes to this, we will have 2 options. Or we have the current operational practices documented, and we could point them and say, listen, this is what is agreed by the operators. This is the best way of running the networks and implementing new things. Please, if you really must, mandate this. For example, BCP 38. If BCP 38 would be mandated across the internet would be a better place. And this can happen with the best current operational practices. Can. I'm not saying it will. But I don't want to think about the other option. If we don't have documented our operational practices, I don't want to think about government trying to invent how to run the internet. I just don't want to think about it, because I might have some nightmares. And of course, the BCOP improves the communication between the operators globally and help them communicate their needs to the vendors and to the standardization process. So, a question. Who in this room is willing to participate and actually do some work? Any volunteers? Show of hands? None. Okay.
Do we get one question?
Huh?
Nobody gets away for beer until at least 6 people put their hands up.
There we go. Okay, let's go to the questions.
So we have a lot of users, and they have a lot of problems, and we run a call center. I would love to host this team in one of our retail call centers for the weekend to kind of line up how your document looks versus the reality of dealing with customers. Because I think quite often these documents are written for engineers rather than people who talk to customers. So if you find volunteers, I'd like to offer that help, because I think it would be useful for us. And then we could maybe document that and share it. There's only one downside. Our call centers, unfortunately, aren't in Barbados.
Yeah. So you're talking about that help desk document, right? Yeah. Okay. So the idea...
I'm talking about an operational practice.
Okay. So the idea of this help desk document is about, it's like a fire it's like a fire drill. You don't have to understand how fire works and what are the temperatures. You need to clear instructions, go down the stairs, find a cylindrical thing on the wall, it's painted red, read the instructions, point it towards the fire and press. If that does not work, call the second level support. That's the fire brigade, right? We need to put in really instructions not made for engineers, but made for people in the help desk.
Yeah, but I think increasingly in help desks we have this thing called single point of completion, i.e. you don't want to pass it to someone else. Sometimes that irritates people, but actually what we're finding is that's the best way of dealing with issues. But I genuinely think we have an underappreciation in our industry, and I'm only saying this because I sat on the help desk for a weekend, and I think we really genuinely underappreciate the issues that customers have and what we need to do to solve them, and the variety of issues that customers have. And I encourage everyone in the room to go sit with those help desk people, because actually what I found in doing that was actually one or two things on the network that weren't working right, that we were able to sort out. Okay,
so are you willing to add some ideas and content?
I'm willing to host you to help you build that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
I don't claim to know enough. This is the point. I'm not sure we all know enough in this room to make that document worth it being written. And I think the people who know that aren't in this room. Maybe one or two of us are, but at a high level we're not, at least in my mind.
Well, the idea is to make a first draft and then put it into the community and get the consensus from the community. It might get a year and 10 cycles, but at the end we may get the document that is agreed by a technical community that is useful.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
So, given I'm sat next to Neil and I already have the microphone, I'll steal that one. So about NANOG51, I stood up and talked about trying to get operator views on BGP robustness to motivate work in the IETF, and as a result of that we pulled together a relatively small group of operators and implementers of people who are writing code and could have some insight into whether things that operators want are harder than we thought they might be, etc. And we sat down at a few IETFs and try and have that discussion as almost an input to working group requirements documents. It doesn't produce any documents. It tries to work out, is there enough here for the operators that are there to propose such that we would like to try and fix things. And some of the error handling and BGP stuff has come from there. And now some of the TE work that we're doing has as well. I would really encourage you to have a BOF at the Vancouver IETF, because getting liaison with the working groups involves very much getting people interested and appreciating that that's the way input might come. And unless that happens, then these documents will get written. They might be a great set of requirements, but they'll languish far away from the standards process and hence won't really be relevant to the working groups that are in the IETF. It also worries me that we feel the need to sort of create a new type of document when we do have an operations area in the IETF that should be what these fit into. So if that's not the right place to do it and be the single global repository, I would almost be asking, how do we fix that area? Not, let's create something new.
Well, that's why we are working on this BCOP. That's why we are traveling to around the world to talk to the operators, because if the operators don't come to the IETF and participate in the ops groups, then they don't. And if the Mohammed would not go to the mountain needs to come to Mohammed, right?
Absolutely. I guess what I'm saying is take the rest of the mountain with you, not just the one little rock. Because the problem is there's unless the IETF being open and, as we heard, multi-stakeholder, etc., then unless the people who are in the IETF are listening and appreciate that that's how input's going to come, it won't happen, right?
Yeah, the issue with the IETF in this is that there is no collective message that can be conveyed to the IETF, because if everyone in this room agrees that there is something wrong in RFC X, then if you go there and say, okay, we got the consensus in this room of 200 people or 100 people, this is wrong, your message would be taken as a personal opinion of a single person.
So
Okay,
the
sorry,
process then...
can we continue this discussion over beer, gentlemen?
Okay.
We're 20
Beer,
minutes late.
the magic word.
Can I add something to this? There is actually BCOP at IETF, and there was very positive discussion about, for example, use of /127. And this was quite massive discussion and resulted in positive outcome.
Yep.
So
We need more of that.
It does work.
We need more of that. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jan.
Let's have a beer.